Tea Biz Podcast delivers tea news that you need to know. A recap of the week's major headlines with commentary and cultural trends hosted by Dan Bolton. It is the voice of origin for tea professionals and enthusiasts worldwide.
The Tea Biz Podcast and blog connect you directly to experts in the tea lands. Listen as their voices reveal the news, innovations, cultural insights, and consumer trends that most impact the industry. Paired with Tea Journey, a digital magazine for tea enthusiasts, the Tea Biz portal is a global resource for everyone who loves tea. Hello, everyone. Here are this week's headlines. UK consumer tea prices are on the rise. Twisted hard tea drives a rare stock surge. And researchers find that roasted green tea enhances task performance. Plus, Africa's first purple and specialty tea conference. Tea has reshaped East Africa for 120 years, evolving from colonial dominion to a vibrant entrepreneurial endeavor, producing a third of the world's tea. Kenya's 650,000 smallholders are the beating heart of Africa's tea industry, which provides a livelihood for 5 million people in 10 tea-growing countries. In celebration of International Tea Day, the Purple and Specialty Tea Association of Kenya, PSTAK, will host its inaugural conference in the Nandi Hills on May 22nd and 23rd. The event, sponsored by the Kenya Tea Board, spotlights Africa's untapped potential in Orthodox tea production. Representatives from 50 specialty tea producers in 8 nations will attend educational sessions by tea experts, a competition for the best locally produced tea, and festivities. Sessions will be streamed online, enabling the entire global community to participate. Conference Chairman Boaz Katah joins us on the Tea Biz podcast today to share his enthusiasm for this long-awaited gathering. More in a minute. But first, this important message.
What makes a perfect cup of Ceylon tea? The perfect cup is from the tea businesses that ensure the protection of all the children living within their tea estates. We salute Kailani Valley, Telawakili, Bogawantalawa, Harana, and Elliptia tea estates. Support Save the Children, Sri Lanka.
The UK Office for National Statistics, ONS, reveals a big increase in consumer prices for packaged tea. The Retail Price Index, a measure of inflation published monthly by ONS, tracks the price of tea bags in 250-gram units. The overall index is 4.3% higher than last year, but down from January's 4.9% inflation rate, and well below the October 2022 high of 14.2% inflation. In March, the average price of tea bags was 262 pence. That's $3.28 U.S., marking a new high despite the decline in inflation. Tea prices in the UK are now 50% higher than last year. This is the immediate result of disruptions to shipping as teas arriving from China, India, Kenya, and Sri Lanka avoid Red Sea hostilities by sailing around Africa instead of transiting the Suez Canal. The detour adds 10 to 14 days at sea. Kenya is the UK's leading trading partner, exporting tea valued at about $135 million annually. India ships about $55 million worth of tea to the UK each year. The price paid for bulk tea has remained stubbornly below $3 per kilo for decades, according to the Economist Intelligence Unit's EIU May Tea Report. The current average is forecast to increase by 1.7% to $2.79 per kilo, and then weaken to $2.75 per kilo in 2025. Auction prices for bulk tea averaged $2.68 per kilo in the first quarter of 2024. Beginning in the 1980s and continuing for more than 20 years, UK grocers sold a 250-gram box of tea bags for about 100 to 150 pence. That's $1.25 to about $1.90. In 2005, retail prices began steadily rising, reaching an average of 200 pence in 2010. Average prices remained constant until the 2020 pandemic, when scarcity and unusually expensive logistics increased the average price for 250 grams to about 250 pence. That's $3 U.S. Since the beginning of the year, average prices have continued to rise, climbing 34% in the last month. EIU anticipates that globally, tea prices will continue to rise in the coming months due to concerns about the El Niño weather pattern's impact on production. This projection follows a weak 2023 when, despite a slight rise in prices in the second and fourth quarters, the full-year price was still 10% lower than in 2022. Ultimately, the price paid to growers is a small fraction of the retail price paid by consumers, who foot the bill for rising energy costs from transport, distribution, packaging, retail merchandising, and labor, each an inflationary link in the supply chain. Marco Forgione, with the Institute of Export and International Trade, told the UK's Daily Mail, quote, "The tranquility of our tea supply and demand has been disrupted by recent upheavals, which has resulted in a surge in prices. These disruptions have rippled throughout the global supply chain, adding to price pressures, shrinkflation, and availability issues, all of which put further pressure on consumers' already stretched purses and complicating businesses' supply chain." End quote. Business Insight. Besides passing along higher costs, grocery brand PG Tips, which sells 80 tea bags at Sainsbury's for £2.20 or about 2 pence each, strategically boosted prices last year. Lipton Tea and Infusion's CEO Nathalie Rose told the grocer, quote, "A lot of value has been destroyed in tea. Before we started, the average tea bag price was 2 pence, which is ridiculous. With this money, how can we bring margin to the retailers? How can we invest and make the category grow?" End quote. Lipton subsequently cut the number of SKUs and raised the average price of its PG Tips tea bags to about 6 pence each. A significant increase in Twisted Tea sales led to a surprisingly strong first-quarter profit for brand owner Boston Tea Company. Fueled by higher volumes and prices, shares rose 9.7% to $315 each on April 26th. The gain was notable as hard teas now dominate the FMB, that's the flavored malt beverage segment. Boston Beer Company, which markets Truly Hard Seltzer and Samuel Adams Craft Beer, predicts that the hard seltzer category will continue to decline in the low teens percentage range. Truly Seltzer saw decreased depletions in each quarter last year. Twisted Tea, in contrast, showed strong growth in each quarter of 2023. Dollar sales rose 21% in the first quarter of 2024, and market share grew 1.4%. The brand, whose bright yellow label first appeared in 2001, trailed portfolio mates Sam Adams and Truly Seltzer for 20 years. Now Twisted is the U.S. FMB market leader with approximately 90% market share. Good Beer Hunting writes that Twisted Tea more than doubled its share of non-seltzer FMB sales from 10% in 2017 to nearly 23% in 2021. Household penetration is 4% in the U.S., led by fans in Texas, New York, and California. Philadelphia is the brand's top market. Twisted Tea now faces fierce competition as Arizona and Pepsi Lipton market hard versions of their classics. In January, Tilray introduced Shot Top Lit, a 9% ABV non-carbonated hard tea. This week, Jack Daniel's released a hard tea in 4 flavors with distribution in 13 states. The whiskey brand's original hard tea, the newest in its line of country cocktails, is a black tea blend with peach, raspberry, and blackberry flavors. The 12-ounce cans contain 5% alcohol by volume. Last year, a new Belgian brewery introduced Voodoo Ranger Hard Charge tea, and Monster is now selling Nasty Beast. In his Hop Take column in Vine Pair, David Infante quotes Boston Beer Company co-founder and chairman Jim Koch, quote, "I don't see much traction from the vast majority of them," he said of his competitors. "I don't see a strong number 2 emerging," end quote. Business Insight. It's rare for a tea to be credited for boosting stocks, but that may become more common. The global market for hard tea, estimated at $2 billion last year, will grow to almost $20 billion by 2032, according to market research firm FactMR. Marketers forecast a combined average growth rate of 24.7 to 25.3% during the coming decade. There are now 150 hard tea brands in the market, an increase of 80% since 2020, according to BevNet magazine's June 23 issue. The number of stock-keeping units increased from 161 in 2020 to 216 in 2023, according to data shared by Bump Williams Consulting. A small-scale clinical trial revealed that Japanese subjects who consume roasted hojicha perform better on mental tasks. The findings reinforce the theory that drinking green tea boosts brain function, concluding that, quote, "it is not only reasonable but also advisable to include green tea in one's diet," end quote. In their conclusion, researchers found that aromatic stimulation from tea consumed in small quantities over a short duration may also exert positive physiological and subjective effects. The research was published in the April 13th issue of the peer-reviewed journal Scientific Reports. The study compared the performance of 20 adult males who completed mental performance tasks after drinking warm water and again after drinking green tea. The subjects completed 5-minute mental exercises 6 times during 2 sessions on the same day. In the first session, the men aged 18 to 30 consumed hot water before completing 3 tasks, then rested and drank hot water before completing a 4th task. In the second session, the subjects were given a different type of tea, either green or roasted green hojicha. Before completing 3 tasks, they rested and drank another cup of tea before completing a 4th task, ensuring a rigorous and balanced study design. 1 month later, the same subjects were tested again, but those who drank green tea on the first day switched to roasted tea so that every subject consumed equal amounts of green tea and hojicha during 2 sessions. 11 specific physiological responses, including tissue blood volume, tissue blood flow, and near-infrared spectroscopy assessments, were recorded. Participants also completed a self-evaluation describing their level of fatigue, stress, mental workload, and ease of workflow. Results suggest that drinking green tea or roasted green tea help moderate stress responses. Drinking roasted green tea also demonstrated greater anti-fatigue properties despite being lower in caffeine than green tea. The journal article highlights the role of aromatic stimulation in tea. Researchers concluded that tea intake improved mental arithmetic task performance compared to hot water. Inhaling the pyrazines in roasted green tea may also directly affect brain activity and influence mood, relaxation, and alertness. Limitations include the fact that the subjects were all males and young. The results may have also been biased by repeating the tasks over a short period of time. In follow-up studies, the researchers suggest that the tea's aroma should be evaluated without actually drinking the tea. Next, Arvinda Anantharaman in Bengaluru reports on this week's India Tea News.
India Tea News for the week ending April 26, 2024. After repeated urging from Darjeeling's tea planters, the centre issued a circular stating that every batch of tea entering India from Nepal must be tested for pesticide residues. After repeated urging from Darjeeling's tea planters, the centre has issued a circular stating that every batch of tea entering India from Nepal must be tested for pesticide residue. Until now, Customs had tested a small percentage of the samples randomly. With the new amendment, every batch will come under scrutiny. But the testing is done at the National Food Lab in Calcutta and takes about 15 days, which means the trucks carrying the tea will remain at the roadside awaiting results. Nepal depends on India as over 90% of its tea is exported here. However, Darjeeling's tea planters have insisted that the centre stop Nepal tea imports as it has affected both the quality of tea sold as Darjeeling, because it's blended with Nepal tea, and prices. Further, India pays a 40% import duty on Nepal tea, while Nepal is not obliged to pay for any imports from India following a trade agreement. And non-compliance to food safety standards is currently a pressing concern in the Indian tea industry, and this seems to be a part of that. In other news, Tata reports revenue from premium and sub-premium brands. Money Control had reported that premium and sub-premium brands brought over 2/3 of Tata Consumer Products revenue for the financial year that just ended in March 2024. Tata Tea Gold, Tata Tea Premium, and Tetley Green Tea performed well, with e-commerce driving sales. It's a sign that consumers are seeking better quality tea via recognized brands. Informist Media also reported that in the financial year ending 2023 March, Tata Consumer Products bought 20.7 million kilos of tea from North Indian auction centers, averaging 170 rupees per kilo. The market leader, Hindustan Unilever, bought 51.3 million kilos at an average price of 179.6 per kilo. The lower prices at auctions indicate that both companies stand to earn higher margins. And lastly, India halts tea exports to West Asia as tensions increase between Iran and Israel. Tea sellers have halted exports, both Iran and the Middle East, and shipping companies are also expected to stay away from these ports. This will be a setback for Indian tea as Iran, once a major buyer, is also seen as a gateway to West Asian countries.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
Hello, I'm Bogdan, a passionate tea drinker and the inventor of the ultimate tea machine, the Brew Maker 1. Preparation is key to making fine tea. Sequential steepings deliver the best taste possible and unlock the true value of whole leaf teas and botanicals. Brew automates that process without using any pots or capsules. This simple-to-operate, smartphone-controlled device stores steeping profiles to consistently make great tea at the push of a button. Brew also reduces time, waste, and energy. That's because I engineered the brew to remember control settings for temperature, brewing time, and quantity. Using my patented process lets you stack steep simply and conveniently.
Tea has reshaped East Africa for 120 years, progressing from colonial dominion to a vibrant entrepreneurial endeavor that produces a third of the world's tea. Kenya's 650,000 smallholders are the beating heart of Africa's tea industry, which provides a livelihood for 5 million people in 10 tea-growing countries. In celebration of International Tea Day, the Purple and Specialty Tea Association of Kenya, PSTAK, will host its inaugural tea conference in the Nandi Hills on May 22nd and 23rd. The event, endorsed by the Kenya Tea Board, spotlights Africa's untapped potential in Orthodox tea production. Representatives from 50 specialty tea producers in 8 nations will attend educational sessions by tea experts, compete for recognition as the best locally produced tea, tour local tea gardens, and attend evening festivities. The sessions will be streamed online enabling the entire global tea community to participate. Conference Chairman Boaz Katah joins us on the Tea Biz podcast this week to share his enthusiasm for a long-awaited gathering. Boaz Katah was born into tea. He grew up on a Kenyan tea farm before traveling to the United States to study computer science. A graduate of the University of Nairobi with a master's in business administration, he started his first business as a teen, packing branded tea. He next acquired a small factory where he learned to make tea. In 2013, he launched Tumoi Teas. Boaz later co-founded PSTAK in 2017 to promote orthodox processing of new cultivars and whole and broken leaf teas. Kenya currently focuses almost exclusively on bulk sales of cut, tear, and curl teas, CTC, that generate more than $1 billion annually. Tea exports account for nearly 25% of Kenya's foreign exchange earnings, but only 10% of tea exports are blended, packed, or branded. Katah envisions a time when demand for Kenyan whole and broken leaf teas enables blenders, packers, and producers to enjoy a comfortable standard of living. We have a special guest from the Nandi Hills in Kenya. Joining us today is Boaz Katah, who's been a friend and a wonderful contributor to the world of tea. Boaz, welcome to Tea Biz.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dan.
Plans for the tea conference were set for 2020, but were disrupted by the pandemic. Now, PSTAK is back on track. The two-day event will feature a tea competition with an impressive group of judges, speakers, and workshops to encourage the processing of whole leaf tea in several styles.
Yes, Dan, you and I have met very many times in expos out there. We meet in Las Vegas and in places like that. But there's been a thinking and saying, how about having a tea expo, a tea convention, right where tea grows in Africa? We are talking specialty tea, Orthodox tea. African countries are predominantly known for CTC. But this is saying there is actually Orthodox and specialty tea in Africa. So this is the first of many that will come. We are starting out this time in Nandi Hills for the first African Tea Expo, and I think it's exciting. This is exciting stuff.
The event coincides with the United Nations International Tea Day on May 21st, beginning a week of celebrations worldwide. Boaz, will you explain how those who cannot travel to Kenya can participate via online streaming?
Yes, so this is right on International Tea Week. This expo, as I said, is going to really try and stream most of the information that we'll be holding. Quite a number of international speakers invited, just to name a few. Shireen Johnston from Australia. Dan was supposed to be there, but it's okay. We excused you for this one. Bernardine Tay from the UK. We have a group that is coming from Turkey. We have a group that is coming from the US and North America. They're still farming up who exactly they would send. But basically, we have all these speakers, 18 number, who would be coming to Kenya, some great photographers included, to stream the event. And in these 2 days, there will be presentations showcasing of African specialty tea, judging of the tea. You can watch this live, hear how the teas, the judges have to say about them. We'll take you on a farm tour and give you a virtual tour of just what it feels like to be in Kenya, and have great discussions on sustainability. We really, really believe that the specialty world of tea can really stand in for regenerative agriculture and sustainable agricultural practices. We'll be able to share these stories with you. So it will be 2 great days that I think would be engaging for everybody who can connect online and really feel what is happening in specialty teas in Kenya. We'll end the show with actually a presentation on a site that will be able to host these teas online and allow the buyers all over the world to be able to purchase the teas right after the expo.
Unlike urban conferences, PSTAK will host this event in the rolling, lush green Nandi Hills. This picturesque terroir rises 5,000 to 7,000 feet above sea level and is located west of the Great Rift Valley, about 350 kilometers northwest of Nairobi. There are no seasons. Tea planted on the equator receives 12 hours of sunlight every day of the year.
We are all suffering from climate change, and the weather patterns are beginning to be unpredictable. I think tea can be a big contributor in reversing this. When we go to the specialty tea world, there is really a lot of room to really work on sustainable agriculture, and I'll mention a few. It's very easy for the small-scale tea farmer to switch from agrochemicals to hand weeding and manual weeding. We have farmers who have switched from industrial fertilizers to using compost and manures of that kind. We have a setup, I would say, like in Tumoi teas, where we 100% do not use any firewood in our tea drying, the tea industry uses quite a number of woodlots to do their tea drying. But we have switched to 100% briquettes made from the sugar industry for tea drying, and electricity as the other part. So all these little pieces mean more forests, less chemical, a thriving flora and fauna. In a nutshell, that's really, really fertile ground for regenerative agriculture.
There are now 17 Orthodox factories producing full leaf and rolled green, black, and white teas and oolongs. Kenya developed climate-compatible purple tea cultivars that deliver impressive health benefits. 3 factories produce purple teas. Your Tumoi tea farm is a leader in purple tea production. Will you describe how Kenya's specialty tea segment is evolving?
I could get too excited and talk at this for so long, but let me give you a very brief on this. I say there are 5 P's that make a tea specialty: the plants, the place it grows, the process it undergoes, the people, and finally, the variety of products that we could get, When we look at the tea plants in the specialty tea world, we are very cultivar specific. We focus on that and let that grow naturally. We look at the places, just identify the very right environment where that tea would thrive without too much of, industrial fertilizers and stuff like that. We look at the processes, as I said, and look at it and say, would hand plucking work better? Keep to hand plucking. Would just pulling out the weeds be better for the environment? Do that. So all these things are really possible when you're looking at smaller farm units by farmers. But collectively, they become a big deal, that you have 100, 200, 300 farmers doing their small thing and doing very, very well. But overall, they are going to contribute big to the change and, sustainability and all. But beyond sustainability, we'll also get you a great tea. You will get lovely, lovely, lovely unique teas.
East African nations are investing in infrastructure and devising incentives to add value in country by blending and packing at origin. Kenya's at the forefront.
The Tea Board of Kenya has been very crucial. They have participated. There will be big players. They have sponsored some events. The current regime in Kenya is really, really arguing for value addition, keep the dollars in Kenya. We are seeing jointly, a space that we can really end up with more income for the tea farmer. So there's been really good collaboration. I allowed the collaboration by the Tea Board of Kenya. I allowed their participation. I allowed the participation of other governments. As I said, I traveled recently to Zimbabwe. I traveled to Mozambique. And I actually was impressed by the local governments there who, said, welcome. Anything you can do for our farmers to get better incomes, we will work with you in that journey. So I think Africa, Kenya is just basically transitioning to this place. And I think the entire world is realizing this crop belongs to the farmer. Anything that we can do to ensure the farmers' pockets are healthier and wealthier we shall do it.
Intrigued by what you heard in today's podcast? Would you like to learn more from our global network of tea biz journalists and tea experts? Remember to visit the Tea Biz website for more comprehensive coverage. That's www.t-biz.com. Thanks for listening. Farewell till next week.
Produced by Adavita Studios. Connect your voice to the world.